Welcome back. ANC Secretary or General Secretary Ace Magashule has said that after assessing the state of the party in the Northwest, the consensus is that disbanding the Provincial Executive Committee will not resolve the current problems. Now, this comes after the ANC's National Working Committee delegation, led by President Cyril Ramaphosa, met the Northwest Provincial Executive Committee, where the state of the party in the province, following meetings in 3 different regions at the weekend, where some members expressed their misgivings about the existing PEC. Let's get an update on all of this and talk about the issues. We're joined in studio by Zizi Kodwa. He, of course, is an ANC NEC member. It's always good to see you, Zizi.
Morning.
Thanks so much for coming in. So, obviously, we saw earlier this year violent protests, and the Northwest was an absolute scene of devastation. All of this to try and get rid of the Premier in that province, talking about maladministration, no service delivery, corruption, you name it. It was a very, very difficult time. Since then, of course, the Premier, Mahumapelo, was removed as Premier. He's still chairman, though, of what's happening in the province, the PEC. Let's talk more about the challenges facing this province.
In discussing the challenges facing the organization, be they challenges of divisions in the organization, the last conference of the African National Congress, 54th National Conference, adopted organizational renewal and unity as an overarching program. So we went and undertook the visit to Northwest in the context of that program, in terms of organizational renewal and building unity in the province. Of course, there are a number of challenges which are unique in Northwest, which we have observed as a national leadership, which then the National Working Committee undertook the visit. We had a very successful meeting with all the regions in Northwest. The decision has not been taken as yet of what then needs to be done. And our visit was in the context of helping the organization to stabilize, but also to enforce and foster unity in the province. So after our visit yesterday, having met with the Provincial Executive Committee, we shall present that report and be discussed by the National Working Committee, which is only sitting next week, Monday. After which, again, a decision that shall be taken about Northwest, it will be a decision that will be in the interest of the ANC.
Yeah. So now, obviously, we hear from Ace Magashule yesterday, and in the opening comments in my introduction, I mentioned that he said, assessing the state of the party in the Northwest, the consensus is that disbanding the PEC will not resolve the current problems. You know, from hearing and reading articles and seeing the atmosphere at many of the gatherings, this was the very loud call coming from its members. But perhaps you can enlighten us a bit more in terms of keeping the PEC in its structure. Not that that's the decision, but the comments that were made by Magashule yesterday. Is this really a side issue?
Any decision we take, it must be in the interest of the ANC. And whether therefore, do you keep the structures as they are at the moment, it will be in the interest of the ANC, or otherwise it will be in the interest of the ANC, is a matter that the National Working Committee on Monday, when it sits in its own regular meeting, must discuss. There's been a number of options that were discussed, very expressed loudly by the branches of the African National Congress, and will consider all the views. I think the National Working Committee is open up to any discussions and proposals. But whatever proposal that comes from the branches, it must be in the interest of the African National Congress.
Obviously, and particularly that we're sitting on the verge of an election. Now, 2019 general elections, we saw the ANC, unfortunately, dropping its share of the votes in the municipal elections, and I'm sure you don't want to see this happening again. But with the sentiment within the Northwest and the fact that there is no stability in the ANC leadership within the Northwest province, this is obviously a major, major issue. What is at the heart of all of it? What is going on in the ANC Northwest? You would appreciate that for the longest time, we have had a number of challenges internally in the organization. Among others, the issues about, we identified in 2015 at the NGC. We identified that there are new phenomena and tendencies in the organization that we must work hard to uproot. One of them is influence of money, manipulation of membership, gatekeeping, divisions in the organization. And the fact that we are beginning to see that members of the organization are loyal to individuals because of what we call patronage, because of influence of money. So these tendencies are now influencing the organization in terms of the direction it takes and influencing the conduct of members of the organization. You don't only find in Northwest, you find generally in a number of other provinces where the conduct of the ANC member is a suspect in terms of the values of the ANC member. And therefore what we are dealing with, hence we are instructed by the national conference which we had last year,
that we must go out to make sure that we retain back the values of the African National Congress, to making sure that the bedrock of the African National Congress unity becomes the bedrock upon which the African National Congress was founded. It's going to be a very long process. It's not going to be just one event. And I think in doing so, we're going to deal with a number of issues. We're going to deal with issues of ill discipline, for an example, in a number of areas. So the reports will indicate on Monday when we meet as National Working Committee exactly what are the issues in Northwest to an extent that we can be able, because whatever decision we take, it must help that organization in Northwest, in the province, to stabilize. For us to win Northwest again overwhelmingly, we cannot afford that Northwest must drop by 20% as it did in 2016 local government elections. Because Northwest is important in terms of the national percentage of the ANC. So we'll work hard. Firstly, we must stabilize the organization so that the organization must influence, make sure that we win Northwest overwhelmingly. That is our desire.
Yeah, it is indeed your desire, but is it the desire of the people and your members in the Northwest? Because there are reports that many of the leaders that stood up to try and address the crowds were booed. They weren't allowed to give a platform to talk. I suppose I am speaking about the Secretary General, Ace Magashule, who invoked some serious emotions there, although there were things spoken about the fact that the president is the one person that perhaps can bring a little bit of stability and unity there, or can he? And I genuinely ask that. Who in the Northwest is actually listening to the top six and the leadership of the ANC?
There were a number of unfortunate incidents that were reported in a number of other regions, including the region where I was with the president. It was not an easy meeting, but it ended in a high note in Bujanala. These are the kind of issues that we must deal with organizationally. We must be organizational. That's why we appreciate the period where we come from, but you will appreciate as well that we are beginning to turn the corner in terms of dealing with these issues in the organization. For an example, could be the question that you're going to ask, the next question. All the indications in terms of the surveys that are being done is that not only in the African National Congress, but people are beginning to warm up to the African National Congress. We are regaining the trust of the people, not only Northwest, but throughout the country. What that indicates is that we have achieved two things that we said the conference must achieve. One, we said the outcomes of the conference in terms of leadership must restore confidence of the people to the ANC. Secondly, we said the outcome of the conference, both in terms of a program and the leadership, it must inspire hope. And therefore, people, not because of material individual gains, they are beginning to see, if you see the national mood, for example, it's beginning to indicate that people are beginning to have hope. But as we do so, we must stabilize the organization. So whilst we may pick up the problems in Northwest, but overall, people are beginning to appreciate the leadership of the African National Congress, their own organization, that is now going towards a right direction.
Let's get back to the issues in terms of the PEC. If they give you the recommendations, which obviously have not been given as yet, they're still working on it, they're concluding it, then they will call for a meeting, correct, of the NEC to look at these findings and then decide. If it is found that there is damning evidence against the former Premier and the chairperson of the PEC within the Northwest, are you prepared to remove him? Are you prepared to disband the entire PEC?
There are two processes that are ongoing in Northwest. There's a government process that is dealing with almost collapse of governance in a number of municipalities and the provincial departments. We were dealing with internal ANC processes over the past weekend, led by the national leadership. What the national leadership will do, because remember, we're a unitary organization, whilst it may have federal features, such as a provincial executive, but they don't have executive powers above that of a national executive committee in terms of the constitution of the ANC. The National Working Committee will meet on Monday, consider the reports that will come from all the 4 regions that were attended over the past weekend. It will then make a recommendation to the National Executive Committee. That National Executive Committee may be convened, whatever, at the behest of the Secretary General and the request of the National Working Committee. How soon, I may not answer now. But on Monday, the National Working Committee must then make a recommendation based on the reports that it shall have received or from the meetings of the past weekend.
Yeah. You've been quoted as saying that calling for the disbandment is actually putting the horse before the cart. Are you referring to the fact that you haven't seen the report as yet? You need to see that report before the decision is made. Or perhaps you can give us a bit more of a definition as to what you mean there.
You can't preempt a decision before the meeting. That is the point I'm making, is that there are reports that are coming from a number of regions. The National Working Committee has not met to discuss, and therefore it will be wrong of anybody to preempt the outcomes of the decisions that the National Working Committee first, it must arrive at as a recommendation, not as a decision, as a recommendation to the National Executive Committee, because only the National Executive Committee must make a final decision.
Yeah, there's been quite an interesting report that's come out, and a poll actually, and I'm sure the ANC are very proud of the poll. Ipsos Pulse, the People poll conducting in May, find that President Cyril Ramaphosa became president in South Africa, which we know in February, and they rate him very, very highly. In fact, it's quite difficult to look at this, even though many people say that they will still be voting for the ANC in a bigger margin. But the internal fighting, the internal wranglings, the unity that we were promised within the ANC is still not there. And this, of course, is going to hamper the elections. Do you have faith that the party, come the elections next year, will have all of its provinces, we've only focused on the Northwest, in order and ready to get these provinces working for the people?
You must appreciate some of the efforts of the National Executive. We are only about 7 months since the conference. And some of the issues we're dealing with have been there for quite some time. And it's going to take a bit of a time for the National Executive Committee to achieve the desire and the resolutions and the commitment of the National Conference. Just to take KZN as an example, we've had a lot of instability and unfortunate incidents that have happened in KZN. We have had a very successful provincial conference because of engagement, because there is no alternative to unity. There is no alternative to engagement. When there are challenges, you can't disengage, unfortunately. The only option is to engage. And as a consequence of that, we're beginning to see positive outcomes in KZN. There's relative stability in KZN. We're picking up, and I think only that approach will help the African National Congress. Slowly but surely, we shall achieve our desire. We're very optimistic that the African National Congress will do well. Not only must we over-celebrate the outcomes of these results in terms of surveys, but they do indicate the continuing confidence that our people continue to bestow in their own organization, the African National Congress, because, as we said, the ANC is not for members, it's not for those who are elected in position. It's not for members of the ANC who are carrying membership card of the ANC. The ANC is a property of the people of South Africa. That's why it's important to always look at the national mood, not national mood by those who attend member meetings of the ANC, but by general people like you. What is their mood against the African National Congress? And the mood at the moment is a positive mood towards the African National Congress. But members and leaders of the ANC must not over-celebrate that. We must deal with some issues, and we must do more to make sure that we win the trust that over a period of time we have seen trust deficit between ourselves and the people.
Zizi, there is little to celebrate at the moment. There really is. We're in a very difficult place as South Africa, and I think you can understand that. We have state capture inquiries that are happening. We're trying to get out of a very difficult position that South Africa finds itself in. You mentioned that it was only 7 months ago that the conference was held, but let's not forget that 25 years almost the ANC has been in charge, and its people and its followers and voters are still suffering. So my final question to you is, why should people vote for the ANC? What is going to change? What is honestly going to be different?
23, 24 years on, South Africa is a better country than it was pre-1994. And if you look at how we have changed the lives of ordinary men and women, both in urban, peri-urban and in rural areas, notwithstanding the challenges, and I don't think we must be anecdotal, that some of the challenges we face momentarily must characterize the period since 1994. 1994, we have done well in terms of delivering basic services to our people. But notwithstanding, that's why we cannot over-celebrate some of the achievements, but we must talk about some of the positive achievements we've done to change their lives, including changing the issues about legislations, including making sure that we do away with racism in the country, for an example. And some of the achievements we have made, many other countries have failed over a period of more than 50 years. In 23 years, South Africa is a better country under the leadership of the African National Congress. The challenges we face momentarily, that's why we must deal with them decisively. Issues of corruption, for example, we must deal with them decisively, because corruption is the enemy of the people and the enemy of the revolution. The ANC at the moment is not on trial. Even if you talk about state capture, for example, the ANC is not on trial. We're the first to call for the establishment of the Commission on State Capture. Those who are here who made candidate who may have information, we ask them to be bold and courageous enough to help the Commission to achieve its objectives. They do so in their own personal capacity, not on behalf of the ANC.
All right, Zizi, we have to leave it there for this morning. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks for updating us on issues within the ANC, but particular reference to what's happening in the Northwest Province. And it's a big tour of the Northwest Province that's currently underway to assess the state of the party in that province.